The 2016 Summer Olympics, officially known as the Games of the XXXI Olympiad and as Rio 2016, is a major international multi-sport event due to be celebrated in the tradition of the Olympic Games, as governed by the International Olympic Committee. The host city of the Games will be Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, announced at the 121st IOC Session held in Copenhagen, Denmark, on October 2, 2009. They are scheduled to be held from August 5 to 21, 2016. There will be 35 competition venues mainly in Barra da Tijuca, but also in 3 other zones, Copacabana, Deodoro, and Maracanã. It will mark the first time a South American city hosts the event. Bidding process. The bidding process for the 2016 Summer Olympic Games was officially launched on May 16, 2007. The first step for each city was to submit an initial application to the International Olympic Committee by September 13, 2007, confirming their intention to bid. Completed official bid files, containing answers to a 25-question IOC form, were to be submitted by each applicant city by January 14, 2008. 4 candidate cities were chosen for the shortlist on June 4, 2008, Chicago, Madrid, Rio de Janeiro, and Tokyo. The IOC did not promote Doha to the candidature phase, despite scoring higher than selected candidate city Rio de Janeiro, due to their intent of hosting the Olympics in October, outside of the IOC's sporting calendar. Prague and Baku also failed to make the cut. Nour El Moutawakil of Morocco headed the 10-member evaluation commission, having also chaired the evaluation commission for the 2012 Summer Olympics bids. The commission made on-site inspections in the second quarter of 2009. They issued a comprehensive technical appraisal for IOC members on September 2, 1 month before elections. There are many restrictions barring the bidding cities from communicating with or influencing directly the 115 voting members. Cities cannot invite any IOC members to visit them and they cannot send them anything that can be construed as a gift. However, bidding cities invest large sums in their PR and media programs in an attempt to indirectly influence the IOC members by garnering domestic support from sports media and general international media. John Tibbs, a consultant on the Tokyo bid, was recently quoted as saying ultimately, you are communicating with just 115 people and each one has influencers and pressure groups, but you are still speaking to no more than about 1,500 people, perhaps 5,000 in the broadest sense. It is not just about getting ads out there, but it is about a targeted and very carefully planned campaign. The final voting was held on October 2, 2009, in Copenhagen, with Chicago and Rio de Janeiro perceived as favorites to land the Games. Chicago and Tokyo were eliminated after the first and second rounds of voting, respectively, while Rio de Janeiro took a significant lead over Madrid heading into the final round. The lead held and Rio de Janeiro was announced as host, becoming the first city in South America to host an Olympic Games. Development and preparation. On June 26, 2011, it was reported on AroundTheRings.com that Rodolai Generali, the COO of the Rio de Janeiro Organizing Committee for the Olympic Games, resigned just 1 year after taking the job at ROOC. This comes just 5 months after CCO Flavio Pestana quit for personal reasons. Pestana withdrew later during the 2012 Summer Paralympics. Renato Succhian was then appointed as COO. Venues and infrastructure. Barra da Tijuca will host most of the venues of the Olympic and Paralympic Games in 2016. The rest will be located in 3 other zones, Copacabana Beach, Maracanã and Deodoro. Barra da Tijuca will also house the Olympic Village. Rio's historical downtown is undergoing a large-scale urban waterfront revitalization project called Porta Maravilha. It covers 5 km² an area. The project aims to redevelop the port area, increasing the city center's attractiveness and enhancing Rio Euro unregistered trademark's competitiveness position in the global economy. The urban renovation involves 700 km of public networks for water supply, sanitation, drainage, electricity, gas and telecom. 4 km of tunnels. 70 km of roads, 650 km of sidewalks, 17 km of bike path, 15,000 trees, 3 sanitation treatment plants. Besides the Estadio do Maracanã Pound and Engine Pondo, the football matches will also take place in Salvador, São Paulo, Belo Horizonte and Brasilia. All those stadiums will be used in the 2014 FIFA World Cup. Existing venues. Security. Since the award of the 2016 Olympics to Rio de Janeiro, the city's crime problems have received more attention. A police helicopter was shot down over a favela during one of the city's many drug wars, and the pilot was killed in the incident. Rio's mayor has admitted that there are big issues facing the city in securing the games from violence. However, he also states that such concerns and issues were presented to the IOC throughout the bidding process. The governor of the state of Rio de Janeiro also highlighted the fact that London faced security problems with a terrorist attack occurring on the day following the IOC session that chose the city to host the 2012 Olympic Games. The IOC, however, has expressed optimism with allowing the city and the nation of Brazil to address these concerns. 7 years is enough time for Rio de Janeiro to clean up its crime problem, the IOC says. IOC spokesman Mark Adams told the Associated Press, "We have confidence in their capacity to deliver a safe games in 7 years. Security is of course a very important aspect of any Olympic Games no matter where it is in the world. This is of course entirely under the national, regional and city authorities." Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, former president of Brazil, has noted that the city has hosted other high-profile events without major incident, for example the 2007 Pan American Games. Rio de Janeiro is planning to pacify local neighborhoods or favelas. Community-based police pacification units will be used to combine trust building in individual communities, through the use of street patrols and civic work. Moreover, in the state of Rio de Janeiro, homicides have fallen to the lowest level since 1991. Indicating the success of Brazil's pacification project implemented for the 2014 World Cup and the 2016 Summer Olympics. The Regional Institute of Public Safety reported that the homicide rate of Rio de Janeiro for the first 5 months of 2012 was at its lowest in the past 21 years, with 10.9 homicides for every 100,000 inhabitants. Nonetheless, despite the decline in homicides and human rights abuses, the Human Rights Watch urged Brazil to investigate extrajudicial killings. Anti-fraud plan. On June 11, 2010, the federal government launched a program to protect the tenders for work in preparation for the 2014 World Cup and the 2016 Olympic Games against the possibility of fraud. The plan, known as Jogos Olímpicos, includes a series of guidelines and nuggets of advice so that the government institutions, and also the tax authorities and common citizens themselves, may identify and denounce attempts at fraud against the tenders. The program, which was launched by the Ministries of Justice and of Sports, also plans the establishment of a group dedicating to monitoring tenders, to protect them against the threat of fraud and also to avoid delays in construction work. This initiative, also boosted by the Office of the Comptroller General, also plans a campaign to make the people aware of the need to pay attention to possible fraud and to always denounce such cases. The program emphasizes measures against cartels and possible agreements between competing companies to set prices above market levels, in an attempt to raise the value of the contracts with the state. Minister for Justice Luiz Paulo Barreto launched the program saying, "Nothing can be worse than someone taking advantage of these two great opportunities to commit crimes. This is a world phenomenon. The business people could be entering with an agreement on prices, in order to compete in these tenders. This is something that needs to be tackled. We need to promote fair play also in our tenders. Fair play is something we would expect from a country intending to host events of this size." He added that, between 2007 and 2010, there were a total of 265 search and seizure warrants issued in Brazil to tackle the crime of cartel formation. In the same period over 100 people were preventively arrested for the same crime, and currently an additional 251 people are being investigated. Concerns over completion. On May 9, 2014, the London Evening Standard reported IOC Vice President John Coates calling Brazil a Euro unregistered trademark as preparations a Euro of worsti a Euro unregistered trademark they experienced a Euro and went on to claim that construction and infrastructure projects were severely behind schedule. A Euro OE the IOC has formed a special task force to try to speed up preparations but the situation is critical on the ground, a Euro the paper quoted him as saying, concluding that such an intervention was a Euro OE unprecedented a Euro. Coates' concerns had previously been reported elsewhere in the media. Emergency host cities. In the same article, the London Evening Standard claims that an informal approach had been made by the IOC to see whether, in case of Rio not being ready in time, London could act as an emergency host city, quoting an unnamed source as saying, a Euro OE at a comparable planning stage in 2004 Athens had done 40% of preparations on infrastructure, stadiums and so on. London had done 60%. Brazil has done 10% a Euro, and they have just 2 years left. So the IOC is thinking, a Euro hurt a Euro unregistered trademark SR Plan B? A Euro unregistered trademark? Obviously, the answer would be to come back to London. Eat a Euro unregistered trademark is very unlikely but it would be the logical thing to do a Euro the Standard also reported, however, that the idea had been officially dismissed by a spokeswoman for the IOC, calling it a Euro OE non-starter and unfeasibly a Euro. If there ever were emergency host cities, the 3 most likely candidates would be Madrid, Spain as runner-up in the bidding process, London, England as the previous Summer Olympics host, and Toronto, Canada as host of the 2015 Pan American Games. Toronto will probably be the front-runner as all of the buildings needed for the sporting events have been built, as they were needed for the Pan American Games. London, on the other hand, would need to fork over billions of dollars to revamp its 2012 Olympic buildings. And Madrid would have to build a lot of buildings from scratch. In June of 2014, before starting the 2014 FIFA World Cup, reports citing confidential meetings between the IOC and Madrid authorities arose in Spanish media pointing towards the possibility of hosting the Games in Madrid. While highly unusual, a move of the Games to another host city would not be unprecedented. The 1908 Summer Olympics were originally scheduled to take place in Rome, Italy, but were then held in London after an eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 1906 had put Italy under severe financial strain. The 1976 Winter Olympics were originally awarded to Denver, USA but then were held in Innsbruck, Austria due to local political red tape regarding public funding for stadiums. The Games, sports, there were 2 open spots for sports and initially 7 sports began the bidding for inclusion in the 2016 program. Baseball and softball, which were dropped from the program in 2005, karate, squash, golf, roller sports, and rugby union all applied to be included. Leaders of the 7 sports held presentations in front of the IOC Executive Board in June 2009. In August, the Executive Board initially gave its approval to Rugby Sevens a Euro, a 7-man version of rugby union a Euro by a majority vote, thus removing baseball, roller sports, and squash from contention. Among the remaining 3 Euro golf, karate, and softball, the board approved golf as a result of consultation. The final decision regarding the remaining 2 sports was made on October 9, 2009, the final day of the 121st IOC session. A new system was in place at this session. A sport now needed only a simple majority from the full IOC committee for approval rather than the 2/3 majority previously required. International Golf Federation Executive Director Anthony Scanlon said that the top players, including Tiger Woods and Annika Zahr-Rinstom, would show their continued support of golf's Olympic involvement by participating in the events. In May 2012, the International Sailing Federation announced that windsurfing would be removed from the 2016 Olympic sailing program and replaced by kite surfing. This decision was reversed in November. In January 2013, Representatives for the IOC announced that the Commission would be forced to review the status of cycling events following Lance Armstrong's admission to the use of performance-enhancing drugs amid accusations that senior members of the Union Cycliste Internationale Euro, the governing body of cycling Euro, had participated in a cover-up of widespread blood doping within the sport. In contrast to the exception during the 2012 Olympics, the International Gymnastics Federation announced that these games will have a gala event for gymnastics. The 2016 Summer Olympic program features 28 sports and a total of 41 disciplines and 306 events. Calendar. All dates are Brasilia time. This provisional calendar is adapted from the candidature file and the schedule is of September 2013. Logo. The Rio 2016 logo was designed by Tata L Design, a Brazilian company, and unveiled on December 31, 2010. The logo represents three figures, in the yellow, green, and blue of the Brazilian flag, joined at the arms and in a triple embrace, with the overall shape reflecting that of Sugarloaf Mountain. The logo was based on four concepts: contagious energy, harmonious diversity, exuberant nature, and Olympic spirit. The Rio firm Tatil designed the winning entry for the logo in a competition involving 139 agencies. According to former IOC President Jacques Rogge, the logo captures the vision of Rio de Janeiro and Brazil for these games. The logo has been noted as evoking Henri Matisse's painting Dance. Broadcasting. In August 2009, the IOC reached a deal to sell domestic broadcast rights to the 2016 Summer Olympics to organizer Picavolt Micron as Globo. Replacing Reed Record, the deal covers free-to-air coverage on Reed Globo, pay TV, and digital rights to the games. In turn, Globo sub-licensed partial free-to-air rights to Reed Record, along with Reed Bandeirantes. IOC board member Richard Carriacou then described the agreement as unprecedented, touting that by working with Brasilia Euro unregistered trademark leading media organizations, we are confident that this represents a great deal for Olympic fans in the region. There will be a huge increase in the amount of Olympic action broadcast, both during and outside games time, and Brazilians will have more choice of how, when and where they follow the Olympic Games. See also. Notes. References. External links. Rio de Janeiro 2016 from the International Olympic Committee, Rio de Janeiro 2016 official homepage.